Hi everybody, I'm Chef Tom and welcome to episode 0 of my 65816 ATX project, or what I've been lovingly referring to as Project Neon Sunrise. As this is episode 0, there won't be any building in this project, but I did want to lay out the groundwork for what I've done already and what the plans are for this project. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Thank you. There are a couple of reasons I've wanted to do this project. Mostly, I grew up around a C64, 128, and IBM PCs, but I also had access to an Apple IIgs, which ran the 65816, and my favorite console of all time is still the Super NES, which runs on a version of the 65816. I've always wanted to learn about 6502 programming, and this seemed like a good way to do it without having to break into my VIC-20 or my C64. Which would probably be infinitely easier because the hardware is already in place and well designed and well documented, but I've also wanted to learn about hardware design, so this seemed like a good project to take on to do all those things. I wanted to start this project by defining the scope of what I wanted to do, which led me into the project design considerations. I knew I wanted to work around the WDC 65C816 processor, running in 65816 mode, not running in 6502 emulation mode. I'd like to get everything working at 2 MHz. My target is to actually get it all the way up to 10 MHz. I'd like to build a pretty decent system around this. I wanted to use an ATX form factor. Now, this doesn't have to be ATX explicitly. Could be mini, could be micro, could even be mini ITX, but my goal is that I'd want to be able to mount it into an existing case. With that idea, I wanted to have card slots for expansion, which would line up with existing card slots and existing cases, making the need to build a custom case completely moot. I wanted to do VGA output, but I wanted to do it without an FPGA board. I really like what David Murray is doing with the Commander X16. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to work on and program with, but I think he really sold the system short by putting an FPGA board in there. I realize most people are never even going to notice it, but it doesn't seem very true to what it is he was setting out to do. And my goal with this is to run that VGA at 640 by 480 with 8-bit color, but with those 8 bits being 2 red, 3 green, 2 blue, and an intensity bit, which we'll figure out how to do that later. Finally, I want to talk about sound output. I don't know what I want to do here. I would like to do either FM sound or digital samples, something slightly better than what like the SID chip could do with its 4 distinct sound waves. I don't know, do I want to do stereo or not? Sound is really a very low priority in the end on this, and if the whole thing ends up not having anything other than a piezo buzzer in the end, I'd probably be okay with that. So what's been done up to this point? I've been following Ben Eater's 6502 breadboard project, and I bought the kit, which means currently the machine is still a 6502 machine, but we will eventually get that upgraded to a 65816. I've learned all the way up to using interrupts, where I've diverged because he's gone on to work on keyboard input, and I just wanted to get 4 different buttons with interrupts working, and I'm going to move on to serial from here. I've designed a prototype PCB. I'm working in Eagle because I'm very familiar with Fusion 360 from doing woodworking projects, and even from my initial version 0.1 prototype PCB, I have already made some changes based on bodge wires I've had to put on the board and design ideas I've had since then. And right now, I just have one program that currently writes 5 different messages to the LCD, 4 based on the buttons, and an error code. This is the first generation PCB. I'm calling it version 0.1. It's still based on a 65C02. I've got an EEPROM and a RAM chip, 6522, which drives my board here, the quad NAND gate from the kit, and I've built a 555 based adjustable timer. I've given myself headers for the address, data, port A, and port B buses. The first thing I realized I needed to do, and a header for the LCD. The first thing I realized I needed to do was create a breakout board so I have access to power, ground, clock, read, write, so that I could actually breadboard things, because I didn't have a way to get common ground over here, because I didn't think of that ahead of time. Also, I needed to add access to CA1, CA2, CB1, and CB2 over here, more bodge wires, which then gave me access to interrupts, which I needed in order to write the first program, which as you can see says button 4. These route into a 4-input NAND gate, so that when I press another button, it will take it low, and change the output on the screen. Obviously, this will fly at 1 megahertz as opposed to, I don't even know if I'm out of the kilohertz range on my timer. Next steps for Project Neon Sunrise. First, we'll be working out some bugs and then making version 2 of the PCB, which will allow me a full breadboard interface. I've seen some of these online. I really like the idea. And the backside of it will have a backplane similar to the RC6502 backplane, except with the extra slots for the 65816, even though I don't have the data decoding logic in there yet. Also, high on the to-do list is 6551 UART implementation. That way I can talk via serial to my computer and maybe work on some programming that way, which will involve needing a bootloader or an interpreter or a monitor of some kind that so it can boot up and then talk to the computer through terminal emulation, as well as adding support for a real-time clock, which I had started and then decided was a little too ambitious from the beginning, but my goal is to put the RTC and have it output to the LCD in real time while still managing to run other software. One of the things I've been really excited about with this project is the idea of using the real-time clock and the LCD display to put the LCD display in a 5¼ inch drive bay with like maybe a 3D printed mount so it can sit in there, and so the real-time clock will be visible on the case, not necessarily on the screen, although software would have access to it. It would just be in a memory location. And I think that would be something kind of interesting. Plus, you'd be able to put status updates there. You could have software that could write to it. I think it's a feature I really want to include in this. It takes a lot more work to do it, but it's something I really want, so I think I'm going to stick with it. And with that, that's pretty much where I'm at right now and where I'm going. I'm learning as I go. I am a hobbyist at best. I'm a very novice hobbyist, so there will be a lot of learning. There'll be a lot of reference to other people's channels, other people's videos, to books I'm reading. I actually have a copy of Programming the 65816 Processor, which took me a little while to find and get shipped here, but it's been a great reference so far with debugging the little bit of programming I've done so far. And I'm really looking forward to working on this project further. If you have any comments, any leads, any suggestions, you think I'm a little crazy for trying this, go ahead and leave comments down below. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. If you hate it, you can give me the thumbs down. Just tell me why you hate it, because that's the best feedback I can get, and I can only get better if you give me feedback. Thanks for your time, and I'll talk to you later.